What's shaking, guys? Marshall here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome properly to Season 2 of some delicious new content for this show. And today, just in time for Halloween, I'm going to be starting a brand new series called Disneyland, The Hidden Story. So today, and in every subsequent episode of this series, we're going to be taking a look at two of the coolest attractions in all of Disney parks and how they may be connected beneath all of the glitz and glam of the attractions themselves. And so first onto the microscope on today's show, we're going to be examining the two attractions that opened the new first expansion of the original Disneyland park in 1969, the Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean. But first, a little background. Pirates of the Caribbean was originally opened in 1967, 2 months after the death of Walt Disney, who would not live to see one of his many pet projects come to life in New Orleans Square. The ride was designed by the head of Imagineering at the time, Claude Coates, pictured here, along with several other bigwigs in the Imagineering department, including Disney legend Marc Davis, pictured left, along with his wife Alice, who designed costumes for the ride. Walt's original concept for Pirates was for an elaborate walk-through wax museum of scenes from the golden age of piracy. But after the success of It's a Small World at the 1964 World's Fair, it was changed to a boat ride, with over 50 animatronic pirates, soldiers, and townspeople throughout the ride. The story is fairly simple. We ride through the bayous of Louisiana until we're stopped by a talking skull and crossbones, who drops us down a waterfall into the caves, where we see some very cursed, very dead pirate skeletons in a few scenes that pirates are famous for. The skull drops us down again eventually, and all of a sudden we are stuck in the middle of a battle. A pirate schooner is firing on a Spanish port, with the captain barking out orders to his crew amid the flurry of cannon fire and foaming seas. We sail into the town, where we see the captain drowning the mayor of the town, interrogating him about the location of the town's treasure reserves. The pirates auction off the town brides for each other. One has even raped a woman, leaving her with only a barrel to cover her nude form up. They're shooting each other, chasing townspeople around, having a good time, until finally the whole place is burning down and they're singing that incredibly infectious tune. The skull then takes us back up the waterfall into the present day. The ride is perhaps the most influential in theme park history, greatest dark ride, greatest innovation in animatronics, and made Disneyland legendary, with only one ride even coming close to that ride being the Haunted Mansion. The mansion was opened as a retirement home for 999 happy haunts in 1969, having been designed by Raleigh Crump, Claude Coates, and Marc Davis. The mansion's opening date of 1969 was actually 6 years delayed due to the disagreements between Davis and Coates as far as the tone of the attraction. Coates wanted scary, Davis wanted funny, so Crump decided to make them compromise and put half of each of their designs into the attraction. We as curious wanderers decide to enter this creepy house, and that was a big mistake, as the ghost host traps us in it, with the only way out being death. He leads us through a number of different macabre scenarios until we come across a ghostly medium called Leota, who is calling up the spirits that live in the house to greet us and have a party of some sort. Getting spooky already in here, I can feel it. Anyway, the ghost host leads us into the attic, where we see some very curious portraits of headless men, all with the same bride. She seems to have a bit of a mean streak, and when we meet her, we figure out just why they got their heads chopped off. She's got a hatchet in her hand. Anyway, that was weird. Let's fall off the top of the house and into the graveyard of the mansion. We continue on our macabre tour as the caretaker has a very particularly strange expression on his face as these ghosts begin to pop up all over the graveyard, and we have ourselves a big giant ghost party. And as we leave, we see that there were some hitchhikers leading us back into the real world. What if I told you that these two incredible attraction stories share one uniquely sinister character in common? Hidden beneath everything, there is one man who made all of these incredible happenings possible. What I'm about to tell you will hopefully enrich your ride experience with these attractions forever. That is, if you like the story anyway. And once it's done, if you'd like to make some additions onto this theory, please do leave them in the comments below. Hang on a bit. It is Halloween after all. So if I am going to tell a scary story, I think I need to make a quick change. Okay. Proper attire. Check. Trademark unsettling music. Check. Black and white camera. That thing's not working. Black and white camera. Check. Okay. Rod Serling, this one's for you. Submitted for your approval. This is the tale of the ghost of New Orleans Square. Our story begins with one man. His name? Jean Lafitte. French by birth, fluent in 3 languages, and a showman at heart. Known for throwing his voice and using disguise as a means to enter places he wasn't supposed to go. He was a pirate near the end of the 18th century, wrecking hundreds of Spanish towns in the area, doing it enough to earn the nickname El Capitán Sangre, or in English, Captain Gore. He is most famous for providing aid to General Andrew Jackson during the Battle of New Orleans in 1812. But even after the battle, Lafitte was the main man in New Orleans. Sure, there were officials from the U.S. government in the area, but Lafitte was the big man who really ran everything. He married a woman after the battle, named Constance, a daughter of a French colonist. She had expensive taste, so Jean had to keep her happy as well as himself. So his pirating was put on hold to construct a massive house for his new bride. It was ornate, large, and beautiful. But she wanted to have a happy life with her new husband. Jean's happiness, though, was off pirating with his crew, keeping himself rich, which is exactly what he did until 1823, with growing discontent for his homebound wife, and with quite a lot of his booty going toward keeping her in nice clothes and booze, and paying her nice servants. He returns home confronted by his wife, who's heard some very disturbing rumors about him being a pirate. Unsurprisingly, she's not happy. She consults with her maidservant Leota, a psychic and a medium, on what to do. She tells her that he is a bad man and must be killed immediately, and it soon becomes a battle between Jean and Constance to see who will kill each other first. See, Eisner? This is how you make a funny haunted mansion movie. Constance wins that battle and hangs her husband ruthlessly from the rafters, but something very queer happened in the wake of his death. She began to hear his voice from beyond the grave. This drove her mad enough to kill 5. Count them 5 of the men that she tried to remarry with after Jean's death. Then, and only then, does Jean dispatch her permanently. After she goes completely insane, he traps her spirit into her house to haunt the mansion forever. And so, with his spirit avenged, Jean decided to rest, taking corporeal form on a boathouse just outside of his mansion, thinking about the only thing that made him happy, being the scourge of the Caribbean Sea. And his rest was undisturbed until 1969, when guests began to enter New Orleans Square. They entered a land ruled by Jean's ghosts. You walk into the bayou and board a boat on Lafitte's Landing, seeing an old man, name and identity unknown, sitting in a rocking chair gazing up at the Louisiana moonlight. They sail on to a tunnel. Jean, having seen them, decides to haunt them and grant them visions of his time as a pirate, sacking a Spanish town in his prime. He releases you and sticks you back out on the street. Guests would walk down the road and enter a very ornate-looking home, only to realize that the place is haunted by the same ghost of the pirate we already know. It is here that we learn what happened to him when his days of a buccaneer were abruptly cut short. Of course, there's always my way. Jean leads us through the dilapidated halls of his once grand mansion, trying to unnerve us as much as possible. Leota, whose spirit is trapped in a crystal ball, continues to serve her evil mistress, calling up the restless spirits to fill the vacant ballroom, keeping the mansion's dining room in the midst of a wedding reception that never ends, because the ethereal head of the household loves to celebrate the only time that she was ever happy, her wedding day. After passing through the reception, the guests would come to the attic and face off against the maniacal bride, who kills everyone who comes into her home due to the mental trauma she suffered at the hands of the vengeful spirit of the fallen pirate. She kicks us out of a window, killing us. As we drift through the graveyard, we come across the caretaker of the mansion, who is staring at us mouth open, because we are ghosts, being joined by the other ghosts and having a big giant ghost party. Those hitchhikers we have on our dune buggies are what we should really look like, because, as I mentioned, we are dead. Lafitte's intentions are merciful or merciless is to this point unknown. But amidst all of these ethereal events, one thing and one thing only remains certain. If he loves to torment and kill unsuspecting victims as much as the malicious master of the Haunted Mansion does, it may be the only way he can hang on to his murderous moniker of Captain Gore. Now you may be asking yourself, is there anything in the world that could possibly make this story canon? Where is the real proof that this is the hidden story behind both the Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean? Well, first off, I do hope you were paying attention to the pictures that I included along with this video. These were intentionally used so that you, as the viewer, could point out some parallels without me having to stop the story and point them out to you. However, the real nail in the coffin, as it were, lies in the presence of one man within the audio of two rides. His name is Paul Frees, and he's a Disney legend. Frees is one of the original actors to work in the parks from 1959 to 1971, and in that time he lent his voice to several attractions, including Pirates of the Caribbean, as the pirate captain and the talking skull. So we've established he plays Lafitte in that attraction, but where does he play Lafitte in the Haunted Mansion? Well, whose voice first greets guests when they enter the stretching room? Paul Frees. Do you need me to give you a second to recover since I just blew your mind, or can I just go ahead and drop the mic right here? Well, I hope you enjoyed the inaugural episode of Disneyland: The Hidden Story. I have my own ideas about where I'm going to take this series in terms of the next set of attractions I'm going to connect. But if you have any ideas of your own, please do leave them in the comments below. I'll be very interested to read them. Anyway, I have been Marshall Lemert. This has been Disneyland: The Hidden Story, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.